What's up, everybody? I'm B-True, and today we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're actually going to talk about what makes Death Note so awesome. So over the past 2 days, I completely binge-watched all 37 episodes of the anime Death Note, and when I finished it, I found myself in love with the show. I thought the show was amazing, and I started thinking to myself, well, what is it that makes this show so awesome? What is it that makes me feel this way about this show? And as I was thinking about it, I came up with some really good points, and I thought, hey, that might actually be a good idea for a video. You know, what makes this show so awesome? And it might even be something that I decided to make into a series, but specifically, I wanted to start off just with Death Note and talk about why I think Death Note is such an amazing anime. Now, if you haven't watched Death Note, you probably shouldn't watch this video because there's going to be a lot of spoilers involved. But if you don't plan on watching Death Note, then go ahead and stick around. But like I said, there is going to be a lot of spoiler talk in this video. Okay, so Death Note, what makes it so awesome? First and foremost, as I said, it's only 37 episodes, all right? It's a relatively short anime. I mean, not even relatively. I mean, it is a short anime. You can watch the entire thing in 2 days like I did. And this actually, in my opinion, really works out for the show because there's really no fillers. There's one episode that kind of just catches you up like halfway through the show, like reminds you of everything that's happened, but for the most part there's no fillers. It's constant action. The plot is constantly getting pushed forward, and there's a lot of things that are going on, and every episode kind of leaves you hanging in suspense. There's no episode that finishes where you're just like, okay, you know, like you want to keep watching the episodes because you know that next episode something big is going to happen, and that's literally every single episode. So I think the short amount of episodes that this show transpires over actually really works to its benefit, makes it super bingeable, and also like ultimately adds to how awesome it is. Now, Death Note is not the typical anime that I go for. Generally, I go for animes with like the traditional anime, high action scenes, a main character who achieves, you know, great power through multiple different transformations of some form or another. Generally, he's sort of like the underdog, and he ends up, you know, coming out to be the best in the end, saving the world, saving all of his friends, that kind of stuff. In this, Death Note is absolutely nothing like that. In fact, there are no fighting scenes in the traditional sense of a fighting scene. There are a lot of scenes with combat, but not physical combat. It's mental. So this show really hinges around these intellectual chess matches between two like geniuses. I mean, just complete geniuses by every stretch, every definition of the word. So for the majority of the show, it focuses on two characters. The main character, whose name is Light, and then the detective who's trying to catch him, whose name is L. These two guys are on a completely different level as far as the way their brains work and the way their intelligence is and their ability to scheme and plan and understand their opponent and try and work back and forth. And that's where the whole chess match comes into play. So they're constantly trying to scheme against each other, even though after a certain point, actually relatively early into the show, they both find out who the other person is. L never 100% knows that Light is the Kira, who's the killer in this show, but Light knows that L is the detective. L is he's pretty sure that it's Light, and so the entire show is them knowing who the other person is and constantly working back and forth to try and catch the person. Light's trying to catch L to get his real name so that he can kill him, and L is trying to catch Light in the action so that he can put him away. And so, especially because they know who each other is, these chess matches are so intense because a lot of the times they're actually working together as their schemes are unfolding, which leads to these insane moments of each person's scheme kind of coming to fruition at the same time and saying, all right, well, who planned the best? Who planned for this, the move that their opponent was going to make the best? And then there's a bunch of, you know, twists and shit that's going on, and it's incredibly entertaining for something that's entirely like an intellectual battle. And the best, like in my opinion, the best way to show this is the first time that L tricked Light, right? So up until this point, Light was pretty much nobody opposed him, right? Light was just killing off all the criminals in the world, with nobody really coming after him. And then L, this super detective that nobody knows who he is, comes on TV. You think it's really El, and he's announcing like, "Hey, I'm gonna kill. I'm gonna catch this Kira guy, and we're gonna put him away in jail." And Light, he feels like he already feels like he's a god because he has the ability to just kill people by knowing their name. And so he's like, "All right, well, I'll show them. I'm gonna kill this guy on live TV." So he kills the guy who's announcing, and then El comes on in the background, and he's like, "All right, well, now that now that you've just killed this person who was a stand-in, who was a criminal, who was scheduled to be executed tomorrow, I know where you are because I only broadcast this in this town. Like, we were gonna go and we're gonna broadcast this in each town one by one until you eventually killed him." And he's like, "So now I know what town you live in." And this is the first time that anyone's been able to really match Light at all intellectually and actually trick him. And Light takes this not only as a direct confrontation, but he actually gets excited. At first, he's upset. He's really pissed off because somebody actually outsmarted him, because Light never really gave El any credit. He didn't give him the credit that he actually deserved, so he underestimated him and ended up kind of biting him in the ass. But Light actually gets excited, and he's like, "All right, you know what? This is somebody who can actually challenge me. This is going to be fun. This is a match for me." And at that point on, you're just like, "Oh shit, this is gonna be like this is gonna go. They're gonna go head to head in this intellectual battle. Now they both know how much of a genius they are, and it's perfectly done the way that the first time El tricks Light. That sets up the entire show for basically what's about to happen. And I think the intellectual action is just so intense, and it had me so. Like I was getting excited. I was getting hyped up the way that I do when I watch anime fights, when somebody's beating somebody's ass. I was getting excited for these intellectual matches to watch them kind of play chess back and forth and see, all right, who's going to actually win this? So the next thing that I think that really makes Death Note so awesome is, and this is like the majority of the show, this is like the meat of the show, is throughout the entire show, it raises these really deep philosophical meanings about the things that are going on. So on the surface, it's a guy who's killing off criminals trying to make the world a better place, right? But underneath it, it's extremely deep concept, right? So, I mean, you have to think about it, right? Okay, so we've been told that killing is always wrong, right? That's just what we've been told. That's what everybody believes. Well, not everybody, but that's what we've been told, is just killing is wrong. But what if it benefits the greater good? What if killing one person saves 1,000 people? Is killing that person still wrong? Or is it better to save 1,000 people? What if you save 100,000 people? What if killing one person saves 1,000,000 people? What if killing one person saves 2 people? It's such a deep philosophical question that everybody has their own opinion on, and everybody has their own ideas about. And for Light, it doesn't matter. He'll kill anybody in order to shape the world in his image. And it starts off, he just wants to make the world safer, but it eventually kind of spirals into him feeling like he's a god and he wants the world to be exactly what he wants it to be. But in the beginning, it starts off of he's going to kill criminals because they're bad people. And as he kills people, you end up finding out later in the show that the world crime has gone down by like almost 80%, I think they said, because everybody was scared of this Kira person who was killing off criminals. So Light killed an insane number of people, but he also saved thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of more people by getting rid of these criminals, right? He stopped future criminals because they're so scared of what he's able to do. And that's like, it's a super, super deep philosophical question of, if you could kill one person to save 1,000,000, would you do it? And El, the detective, is on the side of, listen, whether I believe it or not, the law says that killing is wrong. And whether or not these people deserve to die, you are breaking the law. So it's a very moral gray area of, okay, is the law right because it's the law? Or is it okay to break the law in order, for the greater good, to save more people? And that's like something that they hammer home throughout the entire show, and it really makes you think how you would feel in that situation. It's really a question of, not really a question, but it's just nothing is ever completely good and nothing is ever completely bad, right? No action, no event, no person is ever 100% good and it's never 100% bad. There's always shades of gray in the middle because what we consider to be bad, some people consider to be good, and then vice versa. There's nothing that's ever happened or that will happen that will be 100% a negative thing. There's nothing that ever happened that will be a 100% a positive thing because there are so many different people, there's so many different walks of life, religions, races, everything. So there's nothing that is ever 100% good or bad. And so it comes down to this question is just constantly raised in the show, and even some of the supporting characters bring this up, like, listen, should we really be going after this Kira person if what he's doing is making the world better? You know, police are asking this, detectives are asking this question because they see that there are positive things happening, but they also know that these are negative events that are causing this. And this kind of deep philosophical meaning leaves you questioning your own morality, your own thoughts every single episode. And that's like those deep thought-provoking questions are what really bring you back to this show. Like, the show is exciting on such a deeper level than just, cool combat or something like that. The show also makes you consider the corruption of power, like what power does. How would you react if you got this notebook? Would you be the same person? Would you use the notebook? Or would the notebook change you? And one of the biggest things, so when I first watched this show, halfway through the show, not even halfway through, a little bit before halfway through the show, Light gets rid of the book, okay? And when you get rid of the book, you forget that you ever had it. You lose all your memories about the book. So when you first meet Light, he is a genius student who is working hard to try to get into college, right? He's a good kid. He finds the book, and immediately things start to change for him, right? So he starts trying to change the world for the better by killing these criminals. And the deeper he goes down this sort of rabbit hole, the more gray it gets, where he starts killing people who aren't necessarily criminals, but they're trying to oppose him. So innocent people that aren't criminals but are trying to stop him, he kills in order to continue to kill the bad people, right? So then he loses the book, right? He gets rid of the book. And as soon as he gets rid of the book, he goes back to being this innocent, genius kid who only wants to do the right thing, who only wants to be the best person that he can. He wants to go to college. He wants to be a detective. And when he gets rid of the book, he is honestly trying to find this Kira person to put them away. He honestly wants to get rid of Kira, even though he recognizes that the things that Kira does is somewhat good for the greater good of the community. He recognizes that, yes, this fits my moral judgment, getting rid of the bad people, but at the same time, I'm a detective and what he's doing is wrong. And then he gets the book back and immediately goes back into that previous mindset of, I will do anything and kill anybody to have the world shaped in my image for what I consider to be the best thing for humanity. And so you really have to think to yourself, okay, if I got that book, if I got that kind of power, what would it do to me? Would it really change who I am to the point where I go from being a good, intelligent person, family person that, just wants to live a wholesome life, to this sociopathic maniac that is willing to just kill anybody that gets in his way? And that's, like, again, another one of those deep philosophical meanings and deep questions that this show raises in yourself. So you're watching this action, but on the inside you're questioning all these things. And that makes it such an amazing show. And then the last really deep philosophical thing that kind of comes up in the show is our ability to distance ourselves from our actions when it comes to the internet and, like, texting over your phone or anything. So when you are anonymous behind a screen and you're on the internet, right, people will say and do things that if anybody ever found out, like they would never do if they knew somebody was going to find out that it was them, right? You do these things because you know you're safe, you're removed from it, right? You don't see the impact of it because it's through the internet, but you don't actually understand what these problems are doing. And when this comes up, like the best example of this in the show is when Light meets Ray Pember's fiance. So for those of you who don't know, Ray Pember is a FBI agent who is tailing Light to see if he is this Kira character. And Light figures out that this FBI agent is following him, and through a series of events manipulates it to find out who this FBI agent is, what his name is, and then he kills him because he was, getting close to figuring out who Light was. And in the process, right, it's just another killing, right? So Light's been doing this the entire show. You've been watching these people die that you don't know. Now, you don't know Ray Pember. However, for two and a half episodes, you get to know Ray Pember's fiance, okay? And this is very important because up to this point, the people that Light has been killing are these nameless criminals, right? But now he kills this FBI agent who has a fiance, all right? And as you get to know this fiance, you get to know her before his death, and then you get to know her even more after his death. And it's the first time that you really see consequences to Light's actions. This is still really super early in the show. And it's the very first time that you see, all right, well, he killed this person who was trying to stop him. And look at what it does to his family, the people around him. His fiance is shown in a corner of a room crying, bawling her eyes out because she knows that her fiance died because he was investigating Kira. She knows that her fiance died because he was doing his job. And you feel bad for her. It's the first time it really hits you that, okay, Light is killing people, but he's not just killing criminals. Like it's never just one person. It reverberates to so many others in that person's life, and it really affects everybody else. Especially because he killed somebody who wasn't a criminal. He killed somebody who was just an honest, hardworking person who was doing his job. So then as you get to know her, and Light gets to know her, because they end up meeting, and you start to feel bad because all she wants to do is find this killer, and then again he tricks her into giving away her name, and then he sends her off to go commit suicide. And as she walks off into the distance, Light smiles, and he has these red evil eyes as she walks off, and you know she's walking to her death. And it hits you that, all right, this character that we've been watching, he's no longer just killing these criminals. He will kill anybody that gets in his way, no matter what they've done. If anybody poses a threat to what he's doing, he's going to kill them. And it's the first time that it really hits home that what he's doing is not just killing criminals, because it shows you the secondary and, tertiary, which is the third level of secondary, effects of these people that he's killing, and that he is not just killing one person. I mean, he's ruining families, he's ruining lives, and it really, really hits you hard in the Ray Pember fiance scene. He does this a lot of times. Throughout the show, he kills people that we know intimately, that he takes advantage of and ends up killing. And it's a constant thing. It's a constant reminder that, all right, this guy he might be doing this for the greater good, but he is really, really just ruining so many lives in the process. So then there's one more major point that really kind of hammered home why this show was so awesome for me. And it's the fact that for 37 episodes, you are following this main character in Light. Okay? You're following him all the time. And you know from the beginning of the show that he is a villain. You know that he might be the main character, but you know that he's a villain and that he is killing people. And that he's not just killing bad people, he kills good people too. He kills anybody. And despite all of this, at the end you still feel bad for him. And you even love him at times. So while you're watching this show, there are times that you're thinking to yourself, man, this is such a great character. Like, I really like this guy. And yet he's killing all these people. He's a villain by every stretch of the imagination. If the camera was switched and we were following L the entire time, and L was the main character and not Light, you would know without a shadow of doubt that Light was the villain, he was the bad guy, and the entire show was to stop him. But because we're following from, and that would actually be a really interesting show to watch that same series of events, but following L instead of Light, and to see how people felt about the show when they're following the good guy as opposed to the bad guy, like how your feelings change throughout the show. That'd be a really awesome experiment. But anyway, you're following this character that you know is a villain, that you know is just killing people. He's incredibly egotistical. He manipulates everybody and anybody around him. He's a complete sociopath. And for those of you who don't know, a sociopath is somebody who does not care about other human beings. They only care about themselves. They're unable to feel bad or feel empathy for other people, right? So they can just murder anybody and they won't feel a thing about it. Which he does too. I mean, he lets his own dad die. Not necessarily lets him die, but he puts him into a situation where he's going to die and he doesn't feel a thing. He manipulates this girl who is infatuatedly in love with him, would do anything for him, and he manipulates her time after time after time, even getting her to sacrifice half of her life just to help him out with something, and constantly takes advantage of her. There's another girl who ends up coming later in the show that he just completely manipulates, gets her to kill a whole bunch of people, and then kills her in the as soon as she's done. As soon as she has done what he needs, kills her. Manipulates every single person around him that he possibly can. Lets his own family members die. Was going to kill his own sister. Let his dad die. All those things. And but yet when he dies, I guess a huge spoiler, but when Light dies at the end of the show, when he gets manipulated, like when he finally loses, the first time in the entire show that he truly loses, you feel bad for him, which is amazing that you can feel bad. No other villain in any show that I have watched have I actually felt bad for when they died. Most of the time, I'm like, yeah, fuck that guy. I'm so happy that he died. I could not wait for him to die. In Game of Thrones, one of the best shows on TV, every time a villain dies, like, people stand up and cheer. Like, they're so happy that this person died. And yet in this show, because he's the main character, when he dies, you feel bad for him. You know the kid that he was. You know the person that he was before this book came into his life. You know what he is like without the book, even after he had the book, because you have that time period in the middle where he wasn't the killer. You know what he is, and he's this tragic villain where he was a good person. He was a good person. Then this power came into his life. His ego took over. He got a god complex. The more he killed and the more he won these intellectual battles, the more his brain warped and changed, and he got cocky, he was egotistical, he was willing to sacrifice everybody around him, and yet you still feel bad for him as he's sitting there on the steps dying. You still feel these emotions that you should never feel for somebody like him. And it's insane that the show can actually get you to empathize with somebody who is just a villain by all means, like a despicable person who started off with a good idea, right? He had the good intentions of killing criminals to make the world a better place, which eventually warped into, I'm going to kill anybody who opposes me or who doesn't think the way that I do. Whether it's my family, my girlfriend, anybody and everybody that even disagrees with me, I will kill. And it's just crazy how the show can get you to fall in love with a character that you know in your heart is bad, and yet you can still feel bad for them as they die. That was the number one thing that hammered home to me how awesome this show was the fact that as he's losing, as you see it all coming to the end for him, I have this battle in my brain and my heart of one telling me that this guy was an asshole that deserved to die. Every time he manipulated somebody, every time he manipulated Misa, his girlfriend, I hated him. When he killed the news anchor at the end of the show, I hated him. I thought, wow, this guy is the most despicable human being ever. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody. And yet as he's laying there dying, I'm thinking to myself, man, I kind of feel bad for him. I feel bad that this is the way that it has to end. And I could not believe that the show was able to make me hate and love a character so much that I knew was a bad person. That's like that is the ultimate why this show is so awesome, is because you're able to fall in love with a character that you know is a bad person on every level. And that is something that no other show has ever been able to do to me. So anyway, that is my thoughts and opinions on what makes Death Note so awesome. I'd really like to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you agree with the things that I said? Do you not agree? You know, what makes this show awesome for you, or do you not think it's awesome? I'm sure there are people out there who probably didn't enjoy it or don't think it's that awesome. But for me, this is one of the best animes that I've ever watched, especially because, like I said, it's the type of show that I generally am not interested in, and yet it was able to make me binge watch it in 2 days. 37 episodes in 2 days, which is insane. So yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think about it, and please, leave a comment down below. Thank you to everybody who watched this video the whole way through. Like I said, this isn't something that I usually do. I really wanted to make this video because it was fresh in my head. I might make more videos like this in the future, just for shows or maybe movies that I've watched, just to kind of talk about things that I really enjoy in my life, and then I can kind of get out some good points about them, what I think makes something awesome in the first place. So if you did like this video and you like the idea of me kind of making these a little more frequently, maybe like one every week or so, let me know. I would love to know what you guys think about this. So if it's worth making more of these and you guys enjoy it, I will continue doing that. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching the whole way through the video. I appreciate every single one of you. You guys are all awesome. I couldn't do this without you. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys all in the next one, and peace.